disability crosses all categories. Sometimes the barriers have been through the family for years.
If we're asking other people to read for us, it really limits what we can do.
Someone who has a delay in memory or working memory is going to need different things than someone who has issues with decoding or comprehension.
Assistive technology is the equalizer. It's just another tool to allow them to do what they want to do.
Assistive technology is providing everybody an opportunity to have access to everything.
It could be any strategy or tool, and being able to build that in to build increased independence and confidence, it's been life-changing.
This is a really discreet way that kids can just be a part of what's happening in the class, be efficient in their reading, understand, keep up, and be able to demonstrate their knowledge.
Well, I would love to see schools just get all sorts of assistive technology in the classroom so that it becomes normal and commonplace.
I'm so passionate about having the technology available and matching it up with the people who need it. That's the role that we are providing at OTAP, and it's a role that I hope grows over the years in providing the supports that our learners need.
What the hell?
That's a tough question.
I wish my teacher knew that I wasn't really the type for interviews.
What is it like having dyslexia and how have you overcome it?
For me, it's minor, but it's still a problem for me because I will still get my letters mixed up.
A bit of a challenge as I did not understand.
Difficult, and I always think that I'm not performing even though I was trying it the best.
Whenever I read, I keep skipping words, it's really frustrating.
I can't really read words properly and write and spell properly, then sometimes I got confused with my letters also.
I overcame it by practicing more.
By coming to the AS, I've learned techniques.
I have overcome my fear of speaking and persevere my studies.
I'm thankful I got friends who stand by me. They'll understand, and if I have trouble in homework, they'll try to help me.
Teacher Jenny has been always very helpful and making sure that I remember to finger spell and make sure that I can read properly.
What was it like learning at the AS?
Fun and educational.
It was fun.
Fun because sometimes the teachers let us do fun activities where we learn, so we understand better.
Sometimes we watch movies or just learn stuff in a new, fun way.
Enjoyable.
The first year is boring because I don't like English.
At first, it's a bit scary because I had no idea what was DAS. I thought it was some kind of disease in a sense.
Initially it was hard. Over time I got better and better. Slowly the teacher made the lesson fun and it was very interesting experience.
It was interesting.
The teaching is a bit different.
Yeah, basically you get to know more about a word than other people you see in school.
Not only that, it can help me improve my studies too.
In my journey in DAS, I think it's very worth it because I slowly improved in my English, especially on my writing.
I definitely wouldn't find out I actually like reading if I didn't come here.
The teacher was very compassionate. It's home and it's very nice. And every time I come in here, I feel like it can actually be 3 hours instead of 2 hours.
How did DAS help you?
I'm very blessed to have something like DAS.
I improved a lot on communicating with people.
I've become a more confident person.
So it helped me to become more confident in English.
DAS helped me by improving my speaking skills and confidence.
It have helped me during the exam to easier spell other words.
From my English grade from passing, I'm able to get a C to a B.
And also helped me to understand advanced words.
In the past, I could not tell between B and D. Yeah, they teach me to overcome and then how to pronounce words properly.
From a person who does not even know how to spell simple words to somebody who knows a myriad of vocabulary.
My maths last time wasn't that good and I have improved.
DAS has helped me
the spelling and reading better. And I would like to thank the teachers for guiding me.
Better my speech. True story.
I learned how to spell it properly by using the techniques and method the teacher had taught me over here.
They have taught us how to break down words and slowly sound it out.
It helped me a lot in reading, cause when I first started, I couldn't read a single word.
Did I know that?
What is your favorite memory at DS?
My favorite memory at DS is actually spending the time with my friends here, with my class, obviously.
The friends that I made in DS.
Meeting new friends.
Class is my friends.
Getting to talk with the teachers.
My favorite memory in DAS is to celebrate Teachers' Day.
I don't really have a favorite memory. I find just spending time with everyone is enjoyable enough.
What would you like to say about your teacher at DAS?
Good.
Miss Afikin is a very strict teacher.
DS teachers are very hardworking.
She's kind, helpful, and very caring.
Very creative, innovative.
And for helping me a lot.
I would like to say thank you because they teach me well so that I can read well.
The way she teaches is interesting to me.
These teachers are really nice to me.
Because sometimes when I come, she'll ask me, how are you?
My teacher is very friendly and I really love her teaching methods.
My teacher is the best teacher. You know why? Because she's understanding and very caring for us.
Sometimes you're learning some words and then he will start telling us about his experiences, of why he chose the word and all that. And it's really awesome. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience with him.
She never gave up when we can't read the words. She elaborate more and she make us understand.
Try their best to let the students understand. They will try as many ways for them.
What do you want to do in life?
And survive in Singapore.
To be both an animator and an engineer.
Or as a fitness trainer.
I want to be in a fashion world.
Design was my idea at the time, but I want to see my other options first to pursue a course in infocom technology.
Games designer.
Study literature and journalism maybe.
I am pursuing for chemical science.
Rich polytechnic, good tertiary education. I want to be a man that work very hard.
Teach small children with problems such as myself.
Most likely want to be an air student. I'm a chef or
I want to be a chef.
A teacher, somewhat like Miss Karita. She inspired me.
I want to be a vlogger. You see a camera there, I want to be the one behind the camera.
What will you miss now that you're leaving DAS?
And I will miss talk to my teachers.
My friends at DS.
I will really miss them and how they actually helped me on along the way. Once I leave DS, I feel very sad. Probably won't be able to see them again.
I will miss DAS teacher a lot.
The fun time I have inside class.
Teachers and the staff, they all kind, helpful.
Quality time with friends and teachers and friends as well.
My friends. Oh, I want to come back DAS again because I love DAS so much. The classroom is air conditioned.
What advice do you have for students still studying at DAS?
Be nice to your teachers.
Pay attention to your teachers.
Listen to your teachers.
Also make an effort to actually revise your work and learn.
Just try to make friends and be happy.
Keep going for DAS, so skip.
Because he helped you a lot.
Don't give up on your studies. Try your best.
Have fun but still study.
Focus in your work.
Persevere on and learn at your own pace.
Not always joke around in class.
Just be positive.
Be positive so that you can learn more.
Seek advice when you need help.
Teachers in here can always help you.
Let's just be who you are.
Don't look down on yourself.
Don't be afraid that your dyslexic might hold down on your dreams. And study hard so that you can fulfill them and graduate from DS satisfied.
Anybody can do anything, even if you're dyslexic.
Who would you like to thank?
So many people to thank.
I mean, there's only one person I can thank, which is the teacher. Yes, and my classmates. Yeah!
The staff and the teachers.
The teachers?
My DS teacher.
Just a teacher. Of course, my teachers are very understanding.
Teachers Subhana, Teacher Matana, Teacher Joy, and Teacher Vidya.
Miss Pauline and Miss Siti.
Mr. Sri and Miss Harvin.
Miss Shakira for everything that she done for me.
Miss Hani,
Miss Stephanie, Miss Ashura, and Miss Sadine. They are the friendliest that I know. And also Miss Vinita. Miss Brava.
Miss Camelia.
Miss Yafri
For me, it's teacher Kavita.
Teacher Kavita.
Miss Kavita.
Teacher Kavita.
Like, she's very cheerful.
All the teachers that have helped me making lessons more fun and enjoyable. That means it's easier to just sit down there.
Even though sometimes I still don't know what they're talking about, they still try to make me understand.
Our class is quite difficult to handle.
She made me feel like I don't feel different from others. It boosts my confidence as a person. For giving me confidence to write, motivate me to learn.
I'd like to thank you for teaching me.
I appreciate all the teachings and how much you interact with us, and for that I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
My parents.
My parents.
My parents.
My parents too.
Let me calm down.
All my teachers and classmates for supporting me throughout my learning journey at DS.
And the friends?
Thanks for being with me for 2 years.
Everybody here.
Classmates I had.
I thank you. Why? Because I have an enjoyable time.
Yes.
We have about 65,000 students, and within that, there's about 1,500 to 2,000 students that have a specific learning disability in reading or writing. Assistive technology helps people access something they weren't able to access before. We offer a variety of tools between Chromebooks, laptops, iPads, Read and Write for Google Chrome, and in the last year and a half, reader pens.
This is a really discreet way that kids can just be a part of what's happening in the class, be efficient in their reading, understand, keep up, and be able to demonstrate their knowledge.
I want to go into psychiatric nursing, and it's going to be very hard for me, but with the reader pen I can scan the textbook work onto my computer so that I can have that for easy access.
The children are able to take a lot of the textbook material and bridge it directly to their Google Docs.
I really like how the pen is really small and it's easy to carry around. I really like the scanner feature on it where you can plug it into a laptop.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unite SpLD 2020 webinar and Stream A, Topics on Differentiation. So next up, we have a presentation on the Concrete-Representational-Abstract and Multisensory Strategies, an Inclusive Approach to Mathematics. To share this with us, we have Ramiza Khan. Ramiza Khan holds a master's degree in counseling and educational psychology from Bombay University and a bachelor's degree in special education from SNDT University, Mumbai. She is a Feuerstein instrumental enrichment facilitator and is trained in learning strategies developed by Kansas University and multisensory math offered by ASDEC USA. Ms. Khan has more than 26 years' experience in the field of special education. She headed a remedial school for 6 years before deciding to quit, as she strongly believes in inclusion. For the past 14 years, she has been heading the special needs department in a mainstream school in Mumbai, India. She is also the school resource person for the pre-primary to grade 2 in English language and pre-primary math. Ladies and gentlemen, from your homes, please welcome Ms. Ramiza Khan to share with us on Concrete-Representational-Abstract and Multisensory Strategies, an inclusive approach to mathematics.
Hello everyone, greetings from Mumbai, India. At the outset, I wish to express my sincere thanks to the organizing committee of the Singapore Dyslexia Association for giving Ms. Masarat Khan and me an opportunity to present our paper at this conference. So we'll begin. Our paper is Concrete-Representational-Abstract and Multisensory Strategies, an Inclusive Approach to Mathematics. We have implemented this strategy at the kindergarten level in 2 mainstream schools in India, and we have found it to be very effective. Children enjoy these strategies and it's fun for them, and there's a lot of learning happening. Right now, we are training the primary teachers for this program. I'm sure many of you will agree that math comes across as a challenging subject for majority of our students, and especially for those with specific learning difficulties in mathematics. This is because as our children progress to a higher grade, the concepts as well as the instructional methods become more and more abstract. According to Piaget's 3rd stage of mental development, children are at the concrete operational stage till 11 years of age. And during this stage, their thinking is rigid. Although they start thinking at the logical level, their thinking is still tied to concrete reality, and ideas are obtained from action on concrete objects. We usually find children at this stage struggling with abstract and hypothetical concepts. And therefore, while planning a curriculum in mathematics, it's very important to keep in mind the stages of development, both for planning the concepts as well as the method of teaching. According to the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, all students benefit from the use of manipulatives and visual aids. In studying the effects of using manipulatives and concrete representational abstract strategy, Ohose and Sexton found that the importance of providing students with direct experiences with concrete material is supported by evidence from the classroom and an understanding of how learning takes place. Ohose and Sexton found that while children can remember information taught through books and lectures, studies show that deep understanding and the ability to transfer and apply knowledge to new situations requires learning that is founded on direct, concrete experience. Now let's look at the concrete representational abstract strategy, which we will refer to as the CRA strategy. So it is a 3-part instructional strategy, and as the name suggests, the instructional sequence consists of 3 stages: concrete, representational, and abstract. And each part builds on the previous instruction to promote student learning and retention and to address conceptual knowledge. The strategy uses demonstration. It uses direct and explicit instructions. And there is a lot of literature review to show the benefit of direct and explicit instruction for students with difficulties in mathematics. It uses modeling and guided practice. It is extremely important to model the concept that is being taught, and students have to be given lots of opportunities to practice the concept at each stage. One should not rush through the stages, and students have to be given the time to make connections and to build on what they have already learned. So demonstration, modeling, and guided practice are followed by independent practice and immediate feedback, which are very important aspects of direct instruction. Multisensory structured maths. The CRA strategy also uses multisensory structured mathematics, where we follow a set of sequential steps or procedures which, if performed the same way each time a task is attempted, leads to success. It follows sequential instructions and linkages. So you teach from what is known to what is new. You revisit the foundation concepts and skills before teaching a new lesson or concept, and explicitly teach the link between the underlying concepts and what is being taught. It is systematic and cumulative. So we follow a logical order whereby we begin with the easiest and the most basic concepts and elements, and then progress methodically to the more difficult ones. Each step must also be based on those already learned, and concepts must be taught systematically and reviewed to strengthen memory. It is simultaneous and multisensory, where teaching is done using all the learning pathways in the brain simultaneously, and the students touch, see, describe, and hear their own voice or voice of others simultaneously. The concrete level of experience occurs when the students are actually using the manipulative objects to model the concept. And this leads to enhanced memory for learning and retrieval. It uses direct instruction. It is very important that the inferential learning of any concept should not be taken for granted. When you start teaching, you have to begin with the basics and also review every time you begin a lesson. Multisensory instruction requires the direct teaching of all concepts with continuous student-teacher interaction. The teacher guides the students and teaches for a successful response rather than allowing the students to fail. This does not mean that you do not allow the children to discover and persevere, but it accepts that there are going to be some concepts and some procedures which are going to be so complex or sequentially difficult for the students that direct instruction will help them to learn easily and therefore will eliminate frustration, anxiety, and fear in students. Multisensory structured maths is based on these principles. Assume nothing. So you teach right from the beginning, you teach all the basic concepts. Overteach for learning, teach for automaticity and success. So I'm sure if all the teachers use these principles, our students will be able to learn thoroughly and will be able to master the concepts. Now let's look at each of these stages. The concrete stage. This is also called the doing stage, where the students are physically manipulating the concrete objects to model the concept. First, the teacher begins by modeling the concept, and then the teacher gives the students the opportunities to model the concept and gives a lot of practice to the students before going on to the representational level. I will be sharing with you some of the teaching aids and strategies that we have been using at the kindergarten level in our schools. This is the tense frame which has been prepared by our teachers. We have found it very effective for teaching students to do addition up to 10, and they also pick up addends of 10 very well by using this manipulative. So you can see that in the top row, there are red counters, and in the bottom row, there are yellow counters, and the children are able to learn that 5 and 5 make 10. So you can see here, when we ask the children, for example, over here, we have placed 7 counters. And when we ask the children to make 10, they are able to say that 7 and 3 make 10. So by playing with these manipulatives, by using these manipulatives hands-on, they are able to pick up the concepts very well. You can see all these colorful manipulatives. Children just love them, and it is fun for them. So over here, we ask the children to show us number 5 by using all these manipulatives. Now you will see that the child has placed the counters and has placed them according to the dice pattern. This is because we have taught them dice patterns, and though over here we have not asked them to specifically do the dice pattern or to do the tally, because they have learned, they have done it. Because visually it is very easy for the children to recognize and to count when they learn in patterns. So you can see where the candy sticks are concerned, again they have used the tally to show us 5, and in the tens frame they have arranged 5 blocks of red color, and they are arranging 5 blocks of yellow in the bottom row. Over here you can see the dominoes. So again, the children were asked to show number 5, and you can see they have put together 4 and 1 to make 5, 3 and 2 to make 5. So by using these manipulatives, even though we have not taught them addends of 5, they are able to do it so well. These are the houses that we have prepared for teaching place value. Children have learned to bundle up the sticks. So they make a bundle of 10 sticks to represent 110. And here we ask them to show number 19. And you will see again in the ones place, they have used the tally mark because it becomes easier for them to count. So 5 and 4 is 9, and they have placed the bundle of 10 in tens place. And this represents number 19. So from what we have seen, at the concrete stage, the students use hands-on manipulatives to model the concept. It is three-dimensional, and they are using the visual, kinesthetic, and tactile areas simultaneously. So all the pathways in the brain are being used simultaneously. When the teacher begins a concept, she begins at the concrete stage. So it is used to introduce a concept, and manipulatives often use gross motor muscle to aid memory. Now the representational stage. This is also called as the seeing stage, and here the teacher uses images and pictures to represent the concrete objects that have been previously used in the concrete stage. So here you can see the outline of drawings, and the teacher asks the students to fill them up. For example, she may ask them to draw 2 eyes for the cat, 1 nose for the teddy, 2 ears for the man. Then they are asked to place number patterns in the domino. For example, a pattern of 3 or a pattern of 6. They are asked to draw objects in the jar. For example, draw 5 lollipops in the jar. And here you will see when we give the children to draw 5 lollipops in the jar, again they have done it according to the dice pattern. So this is also at the representational level, where the children are asked to color certain number of objects, to count them and to color them. Here again, when they are asked to count and circle a certain number of sets, all this is at the representational level. So at this level, students draw pictures that represent the concrete objects that were previously used in the concrete stage. So they use circles, dots, tallies, and also use stamps to imprint pictures for counting. This level is used to reinforce access to the concrete experience. It aids the students in retrieval, and therefore sometimes it is called portable memory. The third stage is the abstract stage. Here the teacher starts using symbols and numbers to represent a concept. So over here you can see the teacher has now begun teaching the number 1. So the children are going to recognize number 1 and write number 1. So when numbers are introduced, symbols are introduced, it is the abstract stage. Again, you can see in this chart that the teachers have also used the concrete materials, which they used in the concrete stage, and the representational images of the representational stage. So at the abstract level, you can use numbers and symbols in conjunction with the concrete objects and the representational images or pictures. Here you see number 5. So the teacher has used the tally with the candy sticks. You have the dice pattern, the fingers, the tens frame, and at the bottom is the number path. So here you can see the numbers, the number names, the dice patterns, the tens frame, tally marks, and the fingers. This is also at the abstract level, where we start teaching them to arrange numbers from small to big, big to small, before numbers, after numbers. And when you introduce symbols, this is again the abstract level. So they learn the greater and the lesser symbols. Now, when the children are asked to count and write the number, it is the abstract stage. Over here, again, the children are asked to count the number of objects and then circle the picture that has less objects. So in the abstract stage, you use operation symbols to indicate addition, multiplication, or division. The teachers give worksheets to students where the students are asked to circle, check, or otherwise identify attributes. And you can also tell stories to illustrate. So in the CRE strategy, as the teacher moves through the concrete to representational to abstract sequence of instruction, the abstract numbers and symbols should be used in conjunction with the concrete materials and the representational drawings. And this is what I have just shown you. CRA is an interconnected instructional sequence where each lesson relates to the previous lessons. These explicit connections between lessons and stages are crucial in order for students to learn the targeted skill as well as comprehend the associated concepts. The approach builds on itself. Students first develop a concrete understanding of the concept and then can use that to bridge to a more abstract understanding. Students with learning disability or specific learning disorders need an average of 3 experiences at the concrete level before they move on to the representational level. So you use gross motor before fine motor. You use large muscle movements to aid memory. And then from gross motor and large muscle movements, you gradually reduce to fine motor for fluency. This strategy, the CRA strategy, is compatible with the universal design learning as it involves multiple ways to teach a concept. It involves multiple means of representation where you can use various manipulatives, visual images, and also technology. Flexible methods are used to engage the students. Learning is active. It allows options for how students learn and express their understanding of a math concept. It is accessible to all students regardless of ability level and allows for accommodations to be made. So the CRA strategy is an intervention for mathematics instruction that research suggests can enhance the mathematics performance of students in a classroom as well as of those with learning disabilities. It works well in both the elementary and secondary levels and can be used successfully in a classroom setting, a small group setting, or with individual students. CRA strategy for teaching mathematics is an excellent instructional approach when used correctly and followed exactly. So to conclude, the strategy is effective when students make the connection between the concrete and the representational stages and then between the representational and the abstract stages. So when students understand that the manipulatives at the concrete level, the pictures at the representational level, and the written math equation at the abstract level are all ways of representing the same problem, they have a firmer understanding of the meaning behind maths. They also have multiple strategies to choose from when it comes to solving that kind of problem. And therefore, math is more fun rather than work for our children. Thank you. Thank you. Take care and be safe.
Thank you very much, Ramiza, for sharing on this topic. I hope all of you benefited from this, and we will be back in a short while for the next presentation.
The way Charmaine and Sophie process words is different. The 9-year-olds are both dyslexic. They're smart, but reading, spelling and writing can be a huge challenge.
In test I couldn't read properly, so I had to have a teacher near me lots of times.
They're among the first dyslexic students in WA to use a new device called the Reader Pen, a pocket-sized tool that scans written text and reads it out.
The first woman to fly around the world.
Hearing the words makes them easier to process, helping the girls with their work and giving them some welcome independence.
I can actually do it by myself. I can do my work faster, so I can catch up with everyone else.
In WA schools, up to 5% of students are estimated to have a learning disorder.
It is important for a child who has huge difficulties reading accurately and fluently that we look at technology.
The pen isn't just for students, it can help people of all ages who have trouble reading, including those whose first language isn't English. At around $350, the pen isn't cheap, and there are many support tools out there. Experts say it shouldn't be introduced too early or seen as a replacement for learning to read correctly. Chris Meldrum, 7 News.
The DES strives to create and deliver a comprehensive and holistic range of programs and services for our clients with dyslexia and associated learning differences. To achieve this, we emphasize on the professional development of our staff, as well as the reliability of our services through program evaluation and research.
Action! Okay, so every
While there are still many things that the DES has to do, we have already gone beyond offering a basic literacy program. We must go beyond that to offer programs in other languages, into other subject areas. We must go beyond the age group that we are currently serving. We are currently supporting preschool, primary and secondary school students. We need to go into the post-secondary and adult environment.
Good job. What? Oh. O-E-O-O. Fox.
The DES has developed several specialized educational services programs because we realized that while we address the literacy needs of our learners, there is actually a range of other needs that our learners require support in. One of the first programs that we have developed is our Essential Math program because we realized that our students, some of them come not only with literacy difficulties but also difficulties in numeracy. We also came up with a Chinese program more recently because we realized that some of our students also have problems with Chinese literacy. And then we have the English Exam Skills program because while our students developed in their literacy, they are struggling with exams in schools. They are not able to answer exam type questions. And then we have a preschool program because we also realize that early intervention is important. We also have talent development programs. So for example, we have a speech and drama arts program. The reason why we started this program was because we realized that a lot of our students, they have talents and these talents are not shown.
The DS believes strongly that professional development of our educators, speech and language therapists and psychologists cannot be compromised. Besides deliberate and focused initial training at the certificate and diploma levels, all educational therapists are required to obtain a postgraduate qualification in special educational needs. Other sources of professional development include peer observations, attachments with other educational organizations, case management discussions, and regular in-service training that is sometimes conducted by our very own training academy, also known as the DS Academy.
The DS Academy empowers parents and educators with knowledge and skills to better support children with dyslexia. So we have a team of lecturers from diverse yet related backgrounds. They are our educational therapists, our psychologists, as well as our speech and language therapists. And with their rich experiences, they are able to contextualize knowledge and make it immediately applicable for our parents and educators. A lot of what we do here is actually to urge parents and educators to teach their child using a flexible approach, to recognize that every child can learn, but that every child needs to learn differently and therefore needs to be taught carefully.
And 5. Yay! So 5 out of 10 gives you, what's this fraction? Half. Very good.
The most rewarding thing about working at the DES definitely would be the children I work with. The thing that touched me the most was when I was teaching a class who were reluctant readers. I watched how they grew into people who love to read. They started going to libraries and borrowing books and sharing the stories of each of the books that they have read. So when I watched how these students developed into people who love to read like I do, it really touched me.
Very good. I said I want to play. I said I want to play. That's very good.
The DES tries our best to ensure that no child is turned away because they cannot afford our programs. So over and above the programs that are funded by the government, the DES offers around 1.5 million Singapore dollars each year in bursaries to children from lower income families. And I believe that Singapore and the Dyslexia Association must do our part to contribute to the community of dyslexia globally.
You have to always believe in yourself and to tell yourself that I'm different, so what? As long as you got something that you really like to do, enjoy doing, and there's a market for it, just go for it. There are many people who are successful who are dyslexic, like Lee Kuan Yew, and these are people that we should look upon to and to tell ourselves that if they can do it, why can't we?
Welcome back. The next presentation is called Hacking the Text, Empowering Reading Comprehension Through Annotation. To present this, we have Dr. Isabel Shanti Benjamin. Dr. Isabel Shanti Benjamin is the founder and principal consultant of Alcott Consultants, a professional development consultancy that conducts teacher training programs for in-service English language teachers, as well as student workshops in secondary schools and private institutions. Her research work for her doctoral and master's dissertations investigated the micro-level reading skills and evaluation objectives of the UCLES O-Level Paper 2. Using the logic training of her BSc degree, she developed a powerful text processing methodology for working out answers to comprehension questions in a systematic and procedural approach, not unlike the working used for math questions. Her 30-year training experience of empowering both students and teachers in honing their skills and explanation of reading techniques has given her a deeper understanding of the unique challenges involved in the training of students taking this highly demanding paper, which tests complex reading comprehension skills involved in the interpretation of question patterns and linguistic features. Dr. Benjamin also uses her specialist knowledge to provide vetting and design services for testing materials, pedagogical consultations on research projects, as well as designing of effective training materials and resources. Dr. Benjamin is also currently an external consultant for the curriculum team of the English Language and Literacy Division here at the DAS. Now with this, let's welcome Dr. Isabel Shanti Benjamin to share with us on Hacking the Text, Empowering Reading Comprehension Through Annotation.
Good afternoon. Welcome to my webinar presentation. I am Dr. Shanti Benjamin, and today my topic is about learning how to hack the text. A lot of students, when they are dealing with a passage with unfamiliar vocabulary, they tend to lose interest and give up. They are under the notion or under the understanding, or for some reason they assume that the moment I can't understand a couple of words in the text, I will not be able to understand the entire text. So what I'm going to do today is share with you certain textual features that is not content words, but rather function words that students can be trained to pay attention to in order to better understand the text and hack it without having to worry about vocabulary that they have not seen before. So let's get started. Let's start with how traditionally reading comprehension classes are conducted. Because most comprehension exams give you a text followed by a couple of comprehension questions for students to attempt, a lot of classroom lessons tend to follow the same format, where teachers also give students one very long text followed by endless comprehension questions that put them to sleep and make them lose interest. And the main reason for this is that the comprehension question is meant to check on whether students have understood the text. However, a student's capacity to understand a text depends on his reading skills. So the point that we need to note is that testing tools do not make good teaching tools. Learners cannot be expected to simply imbibe reading skills through massive practice. Reading skills need to be taught concretely and overtly. To this end, we need to first begin by asking ourselves, what is the long-term learning goal of reading comprehension lessons? And I think all of you would agree with me. Every teacher wants to create independent, competent readers. Unlike writing tasks where readers or students can use whatever vocabulary that they currently possess, with reading comprehension, they're thrown into the deep end. They need to handle whatever text and whatever vocabulary they are given or that appears in the text. So we need to think about, if we want to create competence and independence, then we need to think about the kinds of strategies, the type of teaching strategies that will support our attempt to create competence as well as independence. Apart from teaching strategies, another very important area that we need to look at would be the teaching style. What kind of style should teachers who are trying to train students to independently handle text use? Should they use this sage on the stage style or the guide by the side style? A sage on a stage style would be a teacher who's busy informing and lecturing, while a guide by the side teacher tends to facilitate and instead of just simply informing. Now I'm going to demonstrate both of these styles using the same text. So let's look at this text here. It's a whole paragraph. I'm going to just start with the very first sentence. The very first sentence says, herpetologists work in darkness when nocturnal creatures move about in search of food or mates. Now, first look, most teachers would agree with me that the first word itself is probably problematic for most students. In fact, maybe even teachers may find it problematic. But is it really inaccessible? let's look at how this particular teacher, who's adopting a sage on stage type of style, would execute this lesson. So teacher will begin with obviously asking the class, who knows what herpetologists are? And as I anticipated, and you would have anticipated, the students would have no response. They'll just give you blank stares because for the most part, most students would not know the word. Now at this point, the teacher says, anyone? She's obliged to give them a little bit more time. But if you don't know, you don't know. So again, you're going to get complete silence, and maybe now they start to look bored. Now at this point, the teacher might panic a little, as we all do, and then she decides, okay, I better just tell them what it is. So she says, a herpetologist is someone who specializes in the study of reptiles and amphibians. The more motivated students at this point would be busy copying down this definition into their text. The teacher proceeds. She goes, okay, let's continue. And then she reads the sentence, when nocturnal creatures move about. Now we hit the second problematic word. And again, she asks the class, what does nocturnal mean? And at this point, she will get complete silence, not because they don't know what nocturnal is, but mostly because they're too busy writing down the definition of herpetologist. And then again, because she gets silence, she might get a little irritated, and then she would just react as this teacher is doing. How can you not know this? It refers to creatures that are active at night. Now, let's evaluate this lesson and study some of the problems with this sage on the stage style. Well, first of all, the teaching strategy is exclusively focused on building the declarative knowledge. That means the what. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of that? And the teacher focuses mainly on announcing meanings of unfamiliar content words. That in itself isn't a huge problem, but the problem is she does it without explaining how the contextual clues support or point to that meaning. This is what we refer to as procedural knowledge. Now, some issues with announcing meanings of words. Well, first of all, as most of you would have encountered, a lot of times when you teach them new vocabulary, within a week or a couple of weeks, a lot of students don't even seem to remember that they've even encountered the word, leave alone remember the meaning of the word. So there are retention issues with new vocabulary. And another more critical problem is this simple announcements of meanings of words impacts the future encounter with the word in new context. It'll be compromised. And let me explain a little bit what I mean by this. If we're looking at technical words that have very specific meanings that is fixed in whatever context they appear in, for example, the word herpetologist, then it is not as much of an issue when compared to words that have multiple meanings. For example, the word try. If you ask a class what the meaning of try is, the majority of students will simply immediately tell you that try simply means attempt. And the problem here is try is a polysemous word, meaning that it carries different meanings in different contexts. For example, what if the sentence was, the chef tried the soup? Now, in this case, he's not attempting the soup, he's tasting the soup. What if the sentence was, the girl tried the dress? She's not tasting the dress, she's putting it on. The criminal was tried in court. Here the word tried means prosecuted. Now, so when we take to announcing meanings of words, then what happens is even if they retain knowledge of the word, they may then think that this word means this all the time in every text. So that's another problem with announcing. So let me now demonstrate how a guide on the side style of teaching would be very different. So we start with the same sentence, herpetologists work in darkness when nocturnal creatures move about in search of food omits. Now let's see how this teacher does it. So she goes, let's do the hardest word together. The first word, herpetologist. Look at the whole sentence. What are some clues you can use? What kind of word is herpetologist? A thing or person or an action? How can you tell? Now straight off, you can see that this teacher is not announcing anything. She's in fact directing the students' attentions to the clues within that sentence that points to the meaning of the word. She helps them by getting them to think about the part of speech so that they can get some idea of where to begin to figure out the meaning of herpetologist. So you have Jane here, one of the students, who says, it is a group of people. And because she's been asked to explain herself, she goes on to say, because of the word S, which makes it plural, and the next word, work. People work. So herpetologist must be a group of people. Now then another student, Jeff, says, yes, okay, but what kind of people? Now at this point, the teacher still does not reveal the meaning. She prompts them again. She says, what other clue can you see in the word itself? So again, she's directing them to the word. So they're going to study the word herpetologist. And Tom says, is it a kind of scientist? Yes, good, very good. How can you tell? Notice that she's constantly prompting the students to justify their interpretations. Maria says, the last syllable, gist, like physicist or chemist. But what's a herpetologist? What kind of scientist would they be? Teacher says, correct. What kind of scientist? Well, look for more clues. Look at the environment in which they are working in or working on. Sarah now chimes in and she says, nocturnal creatures. They must be some kind of biologist. What does nocturnal mean? And Ali says, I think it means they come out at night. Teacher says, very good. How can you tell? Class, the rest of you, there is a very obvious clue there. Note that the style here is to point at clues instead of announcing the meaning. So you want to empower the students by training them to pay attention to important clues. And here Ali says, is it the conjunction when? So teacher says, excellent. Look at the word darkness and then the comma before when, which links the two notions more tightly, because then it's telling you that the nocturnal creatures are moving around in darkness. So the teacher provides an explanation of the text processing, and instead of simply just announcing meanings without quite empowering them. I hope you can see that this teacher's style is to merely point, facilitate, guide, rather than inform, lecture, or announce. Let me now talk about some of the features of this guide on the side style. The teaching strategy is focused on facilitating learning by drawing the reader's attention to potential contextual clues instead of simply announcing. The guide by the side teacher attempts to raise the reader's awareness of the kinds of features to pay attention to help them hone their reading skills so that they can independently decode future texts. I'm sure you can see that this style is more empowering because it allows the students to learn skills that they can use in future reading tasks. This strategy, as you can see, is the old adage where we want to train the students to fish for himself instead of just simply giving him the fish. Right. So let's go on to the technique. Now, traditionally, annotation is about adding notes to a text for very competent readers who are not grappling with basic issues of understanding text, but rather trying to see how the different notions in the text interact with one another. What I like to share or like to introduce to you is the cue annotation technique. And these are annotations that focus on the micro reading level skills, the inter and intra-sentential textual details. Inter meaning between sentences, intra within sentences. And these are the function words like the grammatical features or the cohesive devices, so that students can use them to clarify intended meaning by first learning how to track, then interpret, and then link related notions within the text and beyond the text. To take it a little further, I want to talk about designing cue annotation reading activity worksheets. Some of you would have noticed that to use a guide by the side style, the teacher has to spend quite a fair amount of time prompting and hopefully expecting students to note the clues that she's pointing out. But again, although you had more students participating in that lesson, still it isn't the whole class. So we want to be able to create opportunities for the rest of the class, students who may not be able to arrive or leap into that interpretation, and maybe they need more time to work on it at their own pace. So we want to create activity worksheets which have little annotations that will cue the reader into paying attention to particular textual features. So what are these cue annotation textual targets? As I mentioned earlier, they will be function words, other kinds of contextual clues like cohesive devices such as referring expressions, conjunctions, ellipses, synonymous and antonymous links between words. These worksheets, therefore, would have the text as you normally see them, and then it would use symbols or some kind of typographic emphasis like bolding or question marks or italics, all right, over different types of textual targets. So for example, if I want them to interpret what a this or an it in a text refers to, then I'll put a little question mark above the this, above the it. Now, I would have trained my students in earlier lessons to note the symbol and recognize the type of interpretation they would need to execute. Now, let me just demonstrate with an actual text, the text that we worked on just now. So let me point out to you all the other clues that you could have potentially used. So let's start with the referring expression then. So let me just read the full text. So herpetologists work in darkness when nocturnal creatures move about in search of food or mates. Tracking them, I was learning, requires not only a powerful light, but also a great deal of stamina. I found myself one night with Orlov from the Moscow Zoo searching for snakes and frogs near a spot where Orlov had first found a venomous white-headed Phia viper, so rare that fewer than a dozen exist in captivity. So I would have a little question mark above the word them, and then I'll ask that they would know automatically that they need to track it. So in this case, they would track it backwards to nocturnal creatures. Now, they can also go forward in the text and arrive at snakes and frogs. So from here, we can then ask them. They can use their general knowledge and try and attempt to figure out what kind of animals would snakes and frogs, what category do they belong to? Reptiles, mammals, amphibians? Which one is it? That's one area, one thing that they could be trained to do. Secondly, we can also get them to pay attention to the conjunctions. So these are in red. You can see the word when. We have the conjunctive pair not only but also, and they need to have been trained earlier to recognize that when you see a not only but also pair, it is not opposing, but it is additive. So they will have had earlier lessons where they've been trained to look at conjunctions and figure out what type of relationship it's signaling. Now, all this information about the different types of conjunctions and the different relationships will be provided in your participant notes. So I will say a little bit more about that later on. Let's go on. Now, remember that our objective at the beginning was to try and figure out the meaning of herpetologists. Now that they've tracked the reference, noted the conjunctions, they can in fact then arrive at a potential meaning for herpetologists. They will note that they work in darkness, tracking, so that's the action that they're doing. What are they tracking? They're tracking snakes and frogs, which are reptiles and amphibians. And they should be able to arrive at least a working definition that refers to scientists or more specifically biologists who study reptiles and amphibians. Another word that's interesting in this text is the word rare, because it is a polysemous word with multiple meanings. So what does it mean here? And that grammar, so rare that. So it is in fact signaling a cause and effect. That something is so whatever, that fewer than a dozen exist in captivity. So students can then make out that the word rare is referring to the fact that there are very few of them around, and hopefully arrive at the word scarce to give the meaning of rare. As you can see, the text now looks visually very attractive. You can use your laptop and then you could demonstrate it the way I've done it here. But in class, I actually prefer to use a visualizer and markers, and then I would make the connection in real time and make them see. And of course, while I'm conducting the explanation, I would get students to tell me what kind of features they want to pay attention to, which one is helping them. And this sort of working, showing the working, demonstrating the clues that points to the meaning of a word, builds the students' confidence, and they might then start to take it upon themselves to start looking for other clues. In fact, very often when I deliver the lesson again and again, and when I'm doing it for the 8th time, I still notice things that I didn't notice earlier. And this is the beauty of a competent reader like teachers and many of us, where our knowledge is actually quite intuitive, and sometimes we don't know how we're doing what we're doing. But if we want to really empower our students, then we need to reverse engineer a lot of our understandings and work backwards. So I often tell the teacher, well, you work with the answer first and then go backwards to the text and locate the clues that the students could have used to note the meaning. So let's talk about some of the things that you might need to remember when you design these sort of activity worksheets. Number one is extremely important. Please make sure that your texts are short enough to not induce an immediate coma. You know how students are the moment they see this 2-page text. Never mind what it says, they immediately feel completely overwhelmed. And if you want them to do very close reading, then what you really need to do is use just one paragraph, like I just demonstrated, and have them read it in detail, close reading. Try to pick something that is reasonably interesting. When I was in teacher training school, we were often told that we cannot give students comprehension texts that they have no general knowledge on. But when I came out to the real world and started teaching, I noticed immediately that the texts that are used for exams don't necessarily take into account students' general knowledge, especially for international exams, because they would have no ability to figure out what students know, what students don't know. So I like to change that rule. I would like to say, if you think your students know nothing about farming, nothing about astronomy, nothing about space, then it's exactly the type of text that you should pick, so that while they're working through it, they are building their general knowledge. And as I mentioned earlier, the worksheet should be colorful, visually engaging, with enough space to allow students to write in their interpretation. Provide a lot of margin on the left, on the right, and even between the lines. Double space it so that they have plenty of space to write in their interpretations. Next, we need to remember we need to engage students, so we should have more student talk and less teacher droning. Engage the class by having them participate actively, right? Show them that reading is not some passive mental activity, but it's one that is very stimulating, like a puzzle to be cracked. I'd like to show you another example of how we can demonstrate the links between parts of text. In this case, to show the synonymous relations between words in the text. This sentence that I'm about to read to you is actually taken off an NT paper from a local exam. Remind yourself of funny moments from the past, like when your pet did something amusing or a hilarious movie that made you laugh uncontrollably. Now, the word hilarious may be a word that some students may not be familiar with, but how would they make the connection with the other synonyms in the sentence? So the first thing they might want to note is the word like. Remind yourself of funny moments from the past, like. So the like is exemplifying, it's kind of showing you an example, right? When your pet did something amusing, and then you have this or. Or is a very interesting conjunction. It can sometimes signal similarity, and other times it can signal opposite. Now in this case, of course, it is similarity, something amusing or a hilarious movie that made you laugh uncontrollably. As you can see, the sentence has plenty of clues. The laugh uncontrollably tells you that it's linked to funny, and therefore this shows you that the word funny, amusing, and hilarious are all synonyms. And for an NT class, these clues are fairly easy to point out and for them to notice and note that they can figure out the meaning of hilarious by paying attention to the other words like the conjunctions and the exemplifiers. All right. Next, I like to also remind teachers that you don't want to just do this text processing lesson where you're getting them to annotate and pay attention to the details, the textual features that contribute to meaning. You also want to get a buy-in from them. So therefore, you want to design just 2 questions for each paragraph, maybe sometimes even 1, that will require intensive reading to locate or infer the answer. Students need to be convinced about the efficacy of this method to ensure that they are motivated to practice and hone their skills. So you will start with worksheets that are heavily scaffolded. That means it would have more of these little symbols and markings for them to know what to pay attention to. And then eventually moving on to more open-ended worksheets that have fewer of these markers or annotations to help them figure out what they need to pay attention to without being told to pay attention to. So as you can see, this cue annotation technique empowers readers to hack the text by exploiting the function words in the text to decode meaning of unfamiliar words and track the flow of and the relationship between ideas in the text. Teachers actually have real fun creating these QN reading activity sheets. When I run this workshop where I'm doing it in person, teachers are given text to work on and they have lots of fun and we get a lot of very, very interesting worksheets. So you know what? Do it old school. Use color markers, highlighters. Your reading lessons will never be the same again. Hello everyone. I hope you found that presentation useful and hope the content wasn't too technical or too painful to follow through. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of you would have more questions. If you can look at your presenter notes, you will notice that I have added several additional slides to give you more information about what referring expressions are and the different types, different conjunctions, and some other material that you might find useful. Beyond that, if you still need more information, please do not hesitate to contact me at my website or write directly to me at my email address, which is on the very first slide of today's presentation, or you can see it in your notes. I will provide it in the header. Anyway, thank you so much for being with me here today. Hope to see you again at a future seminar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shanti Benjamin, and for sharing on reading comprehension, which we know is an area a lot of us are very interested in finding out more. Take a short break and join us soon for the next presentation.
Rolex, made in China, 50% offer. Oops, 70% offer.
So the Sultan actually found out of their secret romance and ordered Hantua's death.
Master, a gentle reminder. Monks are not supposed to get angry. But monkeys can! Monkeys can kill! Roar! I'm number 1, she's number 2, and you are?
Number 3.
Smart boy, you know your place.
We don't see the world for a better just for this one woman.
You cowards, call yourself demons.
Sorry. It's you. What's the meaning of this?
Silly woman, can't you see that golden deer was a simple ploy by me?
Very eyes can see through concussion.
Mantara, I was not allowed to speak of the king in this way.
Why? Why do you think the king sent Bharata away now? So conveniently, just before the fight.
I think these guys are asking for treatment.
where appropriate the format for your writing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our last presentation for this morning is on Tamil Vari Payirchi, a comprehensive remedial program for Tamil, presented by Harini Ramanujam, who is the CEO of Madras Dyslexia Association. She has been with the association for the past 12 years in various roles. As a special educator and an assessor, she has vast experience in identification and remediation of primary children. She is one of the senior faculty in their Teachers Training Division, who has trained many teachers across the country in identification of children with dyslexia and imparting strategies within classroom to overcome the same. She successfully spearheaded projects like Tamil Vari Payirchi, a remediation methodology in Tamil, Avance 360, a workflow software to monitor the children under remediation, and in development of MDA Avas Reader, an assistance device for reading. She also manages their Learning and Research Center, Ananya. She has all-round knowledge and experience in handling children with specific learning disabilities. She has represented MDA in the International Dyslexia Conference held in Singapore and Portland, Oregon, and presented papers. She has also presented a paper in IIT, Delhi, on assistive technology. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Harini Ramanujam on Tamil Vari Payirchi, a comprehensive remedial program for Tamil.
Good afternoon to one and all. A warm welcome from Madras Dyslexia Association. My name is Harini Ramanujam, and today I am here to present to you our new initiative, Tamil Vari Payirchi, a remediation program in Tamil for children studying in Tamil medium. Before going into the program, I'm just going to give you a little brief about our organization. Madras Dyslexia Association was founded in the year 1992 by a group of parents, philanthropists, and educationists who were empathetic to the cause of dyslexia. Initially, we started with a child-centric activities, and now we've moved on and evolved into a center for lifelong management of dyslexia. Now, going into the activities, we spread awareness among the community at large, specifically for parents, teachers, and we also do awareness programs for the general public through communities, corporates, and clubs. Another major activity of ours is assessing children to diagnose whether children have specific learning difficulty or dyslexia. We assess them, we guide the parents, and we also counsel the parents. We are certified authorities for giving concessions for school children who appear for board exams for the certain boards in India. Apart from it, we help schools to set up resource rooms within their school premises so that these children can be helped within the school. We also conduct teacher training programs. One of our new initiatives again have been to conduct workshops for teachers, specifically the mainstream teachers, and share with them the remedial methodologies and strategies which can be accommodated within the classroom so that these children benefit from those remedial methodologies and strategies. And to this, we've had a very good response from the teaching fraternity. The management and the principals have also been involved in this program so that there is a complete buy-in from the top. We at Madras Dyslexia Association have a full-time remedial center which is called Ananya Learning and Research Center. This happens to be a learning center and also a lot of research is being done here. We pull out children from the mainstream schools for about a year or two. We give them the necessary and required academic pre-skills and skills, and we put them back to the mainstream schools. We also have part-time remedial center where these children are given handholding in order to perform well in their schools. We have also started a Study Smart or a study skill program and pre-primary assessment and program, remediation program. In this, we assess or we diagnose children and we see who could be, they're called at-risk children, and we also help them with giving them the necessary skills in order to function in the mainstream schools. Now, let us just get into our initiative. This is what I am going to present to you today. It is called Tamil Vali Payirchi, a vernacular program, a remediation for children studying in Tamil medium school, children who have been found with learning difficulties, who have been diagnosed with specific learning difficulty or dyslexia. This program is of much help to them. As is well known to you all, India is a country where it is multilingual, which means we speak multiple languages, and hence education happens in multiple languages. Now, these children who have specific learning difficulties find it difficult not only to acquire the language, but since the entire education system is taught in vernacular in the primary areas or in the primary years of their schooling, they also find it difficult to acquire knowledge or of concepts in subjects like science, social studies, and the language and mathematics. As a result, their concept understanding is below par than the normal mainstream neurotypical children. Hence, this program is mainly to address these areas. And moreover, people from other states migrate from one state to Tamil Nadu, basically for employment purposes. This adds to the problem, along with being child with dyslexia. This also, the new language adds to the problem. Now, we live in the state of Tamil Nadu, where the language spoken is Tamil. And the Indian education system is designed in such a way that government-run schools in Tamil medium or in the vernacular languages in their respective states, specifically in the primary areas. And some of these children could move into the English medium when they go in for their higher secondary schooling. This adds to the problem again. They are being branded as ESL children or English as second language children. Apart from being dyslexic, this also adds to the difficulty. And having said that Tamil is an official language of the state of Tamil Nadu, there are 9 million children studying in the primary schools run by the government. Now, given the global statistics of 10% of these children could be dyslexic, now you can imagine the numbers. Apart from being dyslexic, we could see that there are thousands of dropouts in schools. Now, the reasons for these dropouts could be various economic factors, but the educationists, if they take in this specific learning difficulty into account, we could avoid lot of school dropouts. And this was one of the main reasons as to why MDA, Madras Dyslexia Association, ventured into this program, in developing this program, Tamil Vali Payirchi, so that remediation could happen in their own vernacular. The remedial methodologies were designed in such a way to help a dyslexic child studying in Tamil medium in order to gain academics and pursue his academic dreams and not become a dropout. When the methodologies are given in their own languages, they are given confidence, and this confidence helps them to build their academic skills, thereby helping them or even motivating them to continue their academic pursuits. The objective of this program is to provide skill training to these children so that they acquire age-appropriate academic concepts and skills. As we all know, a dyslexic individual is intelligent and is capable. Now, when the academic skills are presented to him in the way that he wants to learn, this motivates him to pursue his academic dreams, get into meaningful and gainful employment, and thus become productive to the society. Tamil Vali Payirchi is a complete program or a package which addresses the needs of a dyslexic child studying in Tamil medium. This program consists of a screening tool which helps the teacher to diagnose those children who will be needing the help. It consists of a remedial kit and the training programs for teachers wherein the methodologies are shared with them. MDA also further helps the schools to set up resource rooms within their school premises and help and monitors them in order to provide them the necessary help to help the children with dyslexia in Tamil medium. Before we get into the details of the kit, we need to understand the salient features of Tamil. A facet of Tamil language is that the commonly spoken language is significantly different from the literary language. So, a child could be speaking Tamil really well, but still he might find it difficult in reading and understanding the language per se. If you see Tamil's script, it is syllabic, it is more of phonetic in nature. The complete script consists of 31 independent letters and 216 combinant letters, and learning all these 247 letters at one go is very difficult for a child with dyslexia. The kit is a holistic tool which is based on the multisensory approach and paves way to climb up the academic ladder. The kit uses a combination of bottom-up and top-down approach in learning. The letters introduced to the child are used for progressing with the nuances of the language. They are combined appropriately to form blend, words, phrases, and sentences. Words emerging from this group are used to build vocabulary and brick by brick, which includes grammar, morphology, associated concepts. This helps in bringing fluency in all aspects. Going beyond the exercises included in this kit, it strives to enhance auditory discrimination, visual discrimination, auditory sequential memory, visual sequential memory, actual recall, and retention, naturally and progressively. As we all know, these are the pillars on which rest the skills of reading, writing, and spelling. Let us now see how this tool or the kit is going to help the child in progress in reading, spelling, and writing. Now, these letters have been grouped according to shapes that make up the letters, have been graded based on the ease of writing. If you see, we call these letters as pa, ta, ma, and ra. These are all grouped based on the shapes of the letter. There is some similarity in the shapes that has been shown to you and the ease of writing. With this, we have combined the two a and a, which are called the Uyirezhuthukal in Tamil. It progresses in such a way that these letters, along with the Uyirezhuthukal or the main letters among the 31, we combine these letters and we get their combinants, and all the related skills which are pertaining to that combinant of letters are taught to the child. And this is how the kit progresses. Now, with letters that have been taught to the child, the words are built within those letters and blends, phrases and sentences. Now, if you look at this slide, this is where we have certain special alphabets in Tamil, which are uniquely identified by pronunciation. Now, visual aids have been included in the kit to teach and reinforce the correct positions of the different parts of the mouth to get the pronunciation right. Now, if you look at one specific letter, we will take on 3 letters, which are L, L and R. The letter L has to be pronounced in such a way the tongue comes in front, L. And the letter L is where you curl the tongue and you just put it into the middle position, L. And the next letter R is where it comes from deep inside, R, where you completely curl your tongue. So the position of the tongue makes a huge difference in pronunciation, and as you all know, this definitely affects the reading, writing and spelling of the letter, and as a result, the entire language. So there are a couple of unique letters in there, and the kit has visual aids wherein the reinforcement is done by using those visual aids and also by teaching them the way I just explained to you. As a next step, vocabulary building is done not just through games and interesting activities. Subject-based concepts are used as a bedrock for this development. So the approach has 2 prongs, knowledge growth and vocabulary building. Now in this slide, if you can see, working towards the classroom coursework, Tamil curriculum is incomplete without Tirukkural. You all must be very familiar with Tirukkural. This is a classic Sangam literature which consists of 1330 couplets dealing with everyday virtues of an individual. Unlike poetry of many other languages, words used here are not commonly used and hence may not make immediate connect to a child. This adds to the difficulty of a child with dyslexia to learn the couplets. To encourage learning and make it interesting, now storytelling is woven into the methodology. Moral of the story is linked to the couplet to aid easy understanding and recall of the words that make up the couplet. Words are grouped and presented in a format that associates the number of words in the couplet. As you see in the slide, the kit includes a sample that display the methodology and also supporting activities to help consolidate this learning. We have taken this Tirukkural, Ullattal Ullun Neede, Piran Porulai Kallattal Kalve Menal. Now this Tirukkural has 7 words. So the 7 boxes that are given here, represents the 7 words that come into this Tirukkural. So when this is given as a clue to the child. So what we say is, in the kattangalai paarthu எந்த பாடத்தை படிக்கிறோம் என்பதை புரிந்து கொண்டிருப்பீர்கள், which means as and when you see this format, a visual format, the child immediately gets into the idea that yes, we are going to read Tirukkural. So then we start getting into probing questions. We help them, as I said, with stories, and then we move on to teach them. The philosophy of multiple intelligence is also used as a guideline to design the learning style that a child could adopt. So we first assess the predominant intelligence of the child and those intelligence that are required for the academic learning. So as usual, when we draw an IEP, we base it on the child's predominant intelligence, and side by side, we build in the required intelligence, other intelligence which are still yet to be built. So the kit includes a lesson from the prescribed curriculum to demonstrate the application of the 8 different intelligences in a classroom teaching. So far, I was giving you a brief explanation as to how the kit has been designed to help a child with dyslexia to acquire his skills in Tamil when he is studying in a Tamil medium school. Now let me just go into details to say how this could be embedded in a typical classroom and how MDA does it. First, what Madras Dyslexia Association does is to sensitize the entire school, which includes all teachers of all classes as to what dyslexia is, what are all the possible difficulties that a child with dyslexia could be facing in this academic area in classrooms. Once this sensitizing is done, we now go on and train or provide workshops to the primary school teachers where we share the remedial methodologies and techniques, those which could be applied within a classroom setting, whereby the child with dyslexia could benefit and he would be accommodated within the classroom by the teachers, hence he does not feel left alone. In this workshop, we also share with the teachers the methodologies. We also share with them a referral checklist, as we call it, to identify a child who could possibly need this help. Having done that, if the school requires, we help them in setting up a resource room, and whereby we place in or we train those teachers who are given by the school to become the resource room teachers. And we handhold these resource room teachers till they are independent enough to handle the children with dyslexia in their resource room centers. In line with our mission of reaching to as many children as possible, we join hands with the government and we help them train their teachers who work in the government schools in these areas and share with them our checklist and the remedial methodologies. As once again, MDA or Madras Dyslexia Association is all for reaching out children who require help wherever they are. So we are now in the process of putting up or digitizing this entire program so that it is made available to one and all across. I take this opportunity to thank the Dyslexia Association of Singapore for giving us an opportunity to put up or to showcase our remediation program that we have developed for children with dyslexia in the Tamil medium schools. And thank you once again for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Harini Ramanujam, for sharing on Tamil, a language that we hope to be able to learn more about when it comes to dyslexia intervention. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this presentation, we now end this stream. This afternoon and over the next week, you will have access to a set of presentations that were pre-recorded videos and submitted for the Unite SpLD 2020 conference. So the great news is, you now have access to watch them in your own time. We have also recorded the sessions this morning, and we will share them with you together with the pre-recorded videos accessible through the same link. While they are not immediately available, they will appear when ready. So if you've missed the opportunity to watch anything this morning, you can certainly catch up on them later. We appreciate your feedback on how we have performed this morning in our first ever online conference. Do share your feedback with us by using the links that we've shared with you previously. And finally, we have some exciting live presentations tomorrow, as well as a plenary session where Fintan O'Regan, Julie Washington, Carol Allen, and Unite SpLD 2020 Conference Chair Li Xiang will answer some of your questions. And I'll be there too. So thank you for joining us today. And on behalf of the Unite SpLD Conference Committee, we certainly look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye.